Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your husband's conscious effort so that you feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm sharing insights from the husband of an empowered wife as part of our Man Panel series. This is part 3 of our panel. My guest, Brian, is not a student, but rather the husband of a podcast guest and certified Laura Doyle relationship coach. He generously agreed to be part of our Man Panel series. And today I'm going to get his perspective on the changes in his family as a result of his wife using the 6 intimacy skills along with the connection framework. Get ready to hear the male perspective on what makes men attracted to their wives and what makes them want to be her hero. But first, here's a shout out to his wife, who invited him on the show on my behalf to be a guest and talk openly about their marriage on this very widely listened to podcast. So very courageous and generous. Thank you, Anne, for fearlessly sharing your husband with us on this podcast. If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. My guest, Brian, is not a student, but rather the husband of a certified Laura Doyle relationship coach. And he generously agreed to be part of our Man Panel series. And today I'm going to get his perspective on the changes in his family as a result of his wife using the connection framework and the 6 intimacy skills. So get ready to hear the male perspective on what makes men attracted to their wives and wanting to be her hero. Brian, thank you so much for coming on the Empowered Wife podcast to share your story with us.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Well, take us back to, I always like to start with the bad old days. Like what was going wrong in the relationship? Yeah.
There was nothing horrible going on. It was more, there were certain things we just couldn't communicate about. There were times when we had fights over various things and they just never got resolved. I mean, most of the marriage was good, but these certain areas, when we tried to attack them, we just couldn't make any headway in them. And, it gets frustrating after a while and you kind of build, you build walls and it ruins your intimacy. So that's kind of where we started from. It has been a long process. Anne has always been interested in working on the marriage, and I have too. At some points, we were even teaching marriage classes to other people and doing things with our church and enjoying good results from that. But at the same time, we were still having some of these issues in our own marriage that just weren't getting resolved. So that's kind of where we started. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so interesting. So, and I mean, I can kind of relate to this. Like, sometimes I could, I'm in the same space teaching people how to have good relationships. And sometimes there'll be a breakdown at my house and I'll feel like a big hypocrite because like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and you guys were having that experience too, it sounds like, trying to be like this role model or example of what's possible, but also kind of feeling like something was missing for you guys too, it sounds like.
Yeah, I know the way Anne puts it is she had all the information, she just couldn't put it all together and make it work. And that was the part that was very frustrating because there was something missing. And I think when she found the Laura Doyle information, that's when it kind of put everything together and made it start working. And that's the biggest thing I've noticed is that our marriage just works now. I'm really happy about that. It's just, it's a joy. We've grown more since in these last few years than we did in the whole marriage up till then. Not that we were doing bad, but you kind of have a list of things. Well, I'm not going there, and I'm not going there, and I'm not going there. And then you just kind of settle. And we've been able to basically break through all of that. And communication was the biggest thing. Right now, we can communicate about just about anything and not fight, and actually make progress on it. So that's the biggest change I've noticed, is that we have that intimacy and the closeness, and we can just work through anything, which we couldn't do before. We really we had fights about money and sex and the kids, how to raise the kids, and just all, basically everything everybody else has fights about. And we found ways to resolve them. And I think the information that she got through the Laura Doyle classes, and now she's a coach, has just really enriched our lives, and now she's sharing it with others. So that's kind of really exciting too.
Yeah, because it sounds like that's been a vision of yours for a while too, for the two of you to be able to strengthen your community by helping other marriages, and so now you really have something to model for other people, I guess, that you're proud
I think
of.
that's it. And
yeah.
When we are out and about, one of the comments we get is that we like each other, which it sounds kind of funny, but when you see other married couples around, like sitting at dinner or something, they're not engaged in conversation, they're not enjoying each other's company, and that's kind of sad. So that's one of the things that we're working on, is just basically being that example, and trying our best to share that with others. So, and enjoying it ourselves too.
Yeah, and enjoying it yourselves. It starts with that, right? So
that's right.
So I love you gave us the specific examples. There were fights about money, about sex, about child rearing, which I think is super common, right? That happens, I think, the world over. But was there ever a moment where you just felt like, because it sounds like your marriage was always pretty good, but did you ever just think like, wow, we are really stuck, or we can't go on like this? Something's really got to give here. Did you have a moment like that?
Well, there was one time when we built a house together, which was kind of interesting, because we both had different ideas of how that should be happening, and what you should do first, and all kinds of different things like that. And to use one of your terms, Anne was on my paper a lot, and it caused a lot of frustration for me, because I was doing, I was working a regular job and then trying to work on the house during the day, and during the evenings and the daytime. And we had some very strained relationship at that point. Just all the decisions that have to be made. And, we didn't really know how to resolve when we disagreed. We couldn't really finish that. So we just kind of put things to the side and moved things around. And it was very frustrating. And that was a very difficult time. We made it through. And that was, as you say, the bad old days. But that was one of the times when it was really difficult. And then raising children and having different ideas about, everything from what you do want them to do to don't want them to do, how you discipline. And, we were both from two very different families. We used to joke and say, I'm from the quiet family, and Anne was from the loud family. And I'm more of an introvert, and Anne's more of an extrovert. So putting all those things together into the mix, and trying to resolve all that, and be married and raise children, and build and do different things. There were some times where it was very intense, so to say the least.
Yeah, and it sounds kind of tiring as I listen to you, like a little bit draining to be constantly having those battles while you're trying to do all these other things in the world, work and raise the kids and build the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was your response to that?
Well, I would basically, I think the term is stonewalling. When things didn't go my way, I would just like get quiet, and if we had been arguing, I would just leave. It's made it much easier to deal with from my point of view. And of course, she perceived that as unloving. And I'm thinking this is the most loving thing I can do because I don't want to argue with you because I love you. So I would leave, and that basically became a cycle where it was just, I don't want to fight. So if we're not going to fight, I have to leave. And if I leave, I'm unloving. So it just
There's no
kind
way
of
to win.
compounds. It's a snowball. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we gradually worked through that and kind of got to the position where most things we could deal with, but there were still those problem areas that we didn't know how to deal with. Like the main one was finances. And just the thought of having a finance meeting would basically almost make me sick, just knowing I was going to have to deal with all of the things. And there was nothing wrong with our finances. We just had to work together on it, and we didn't know how. So it was very intense, but we made it through that even. And now, I mean, like I said, the main thing that I've seen from the benefit of the Laura Doyle programs is that it's allowed us to communicate deeper and make goals and set, just make decisions. And if to really move forward, you really have to make decisions, and to do that together. That's something we couldn't do before because something would always get left up in the air because we'd hit a roadblock and the meeting's over, and I'm upset and she's crying, and it was hard.
Yeah. I appreciate you so much just sharing so personally about what it was like at your house, because it's really hard to get a glimpse of someone's marriage without this level of sharing that you're doing with us right now. So I really appreciate it, and I can relate to it too. And did you guys just? I mean, did you try to get other kinds of help, like counseling, or I know you were teaching marriage classes?
Yeah. We never went to private counseling or anything like that. We were kind of more on the self-help side, and we just read books and worked on it. And for the most part, like I said, we didn't have a bad marriage. We weren't, I don't think either of us ever considered divorce. It was just these areas, these things that we couldn't talk about. And, we tried, there's a certain amount you have to do in order to survive. So you did that. But, I was either feeling like I had to walk on eggshells or that we couldn't talk about it. It was one or the other. And the reason I can talk about it now is because it's so much better. And because, like I said, that I feel like I could go and talk to Anne about anything right now. And we would have a good conversation and would resolve things and make decisions and just move ahead. So
those
I'm not sure
touchy
if that answers the
subjects.
question.
Well, it does. It does. So like those touchy subjects that you dreaded, like finances is one you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
So if you were going to go and talk to her about finances right now, or if the two of you were going to meet about that, it sounds like your expectation is it would go well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't had a finance fight in a long time. And it's kind of funny because now if we do have what I would call fights, they last like 5 minutes, and then, we just like, why did we bother doing that? And it's like, that was a waste of time. And we just kind of come back together and everything's, normalized again, and we pick up from where we left off.
This sounds great.
In the bad old days, it would last, days. We just would, it's not that we wouldn't be getting along. It's just that that topic would be like taboo, off the table. No, we're not going there because you know what happened last time. So
Yeah. And there
yeah,
might be a little bit of tension in the air about it. It
yeah,
sounds like,
yeah. If
yeah.
that topic came up, and she didn't know how to bring up things that she thought we needed to deal with, and I didn't bring them up because I didn't think we would, because I thought we would, pick a topic we're going to fight kind of thing. So I avoided that as much as she was trying to resolve it. And we finally found ways to get around that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you first heard her saying things or doing things that you thought, that's a little different than what we usually do around here?
Yeah. I mean, I think to use one of your terms again, when I noticed her getting off of my paper on purpose and apologizing and saying, I'm sorry, I'm on your paper. It's like, oh, I didn't even realize it, but I guess you kind of were. So thanks, and it was kind of gradual and from my point of view, I didn't feel like I really did anything. It was more what she was doing that was making me respond better. So, I mean, from that point of view, I mean, not like I feel manipulated. I just feel like she's made changes that have allowed us to be closer and to just enjoy life more. So, from that point of view,
That's great.
yeah.
So, you bring up, feeling manipulated. I was going to ask about that because I think sometimes there is a tendency, if you're hearing new words come out of your wife's mouth, to think, wait, what's all this? Like, where'd she get that? But it doesn't sound like you had any suspicions or concerns when that
No,
first
not
started.
not really. I mean, she shared a lot about, I mean, when she was taking the classes to become a coach, we talked a lot about that because it was a big financial decision that we had to make.
It was.
And
Yeah.
that was one of the first decisions we were kind of able to work together on, and it worked out great. So yeah, I never felt manipulated. I mean, I knew she was doing things different, and but it was still her. It was like, the girl of fun and light that I married is back and just doing things that make it so that we can still have that intimacy. So she was just not doing things that would annoy me, basically, without even trying, So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but yeah. I think that was the biggest change is it was more, she stopped doing things that weren't productive. Excuse me.
Yeah. So she was bringing a different approach, and it just resulted in a harmonious conversation or negotiation, it sounds like, between the two of you. So I'm curious, do you remember what it was about this? You were saying that's one of the first financial conversations you had that went well, about making the investment in coach training, it sounds like. So do you remember what was different about that, or why it landed so much better?
I think she kind of presented it to me without there was no underlying, we have to do this my way or else. It was more, she expressed her desire of what she wanted to do, and she let me figure out how we could kind of swing it and make it work. And she just kind of put the ball in my court by expressing what she desired, as opposed to, saying she didn't present it like, we're going to do this. Now let's figure out how. She presented it as, I would like to do this. Is there any way we can make it work? And then she just stopped, that was the unusual part, as opposed to, trying to, get get the checkbook out and look at all the registers and point, and and she didn't try to figure out all the details. She just kind of put it in my court and said, well, how can we do this? And is it she asked, and I obviously wanted to please her, because that's what makes me happy is when I get to do things that make her happy. So it worked out.
That's so sweet, Brian. I just love the way you said that. Like, I obviously wanted to make her happy because that's what makes me happy, which which brings me to, I wanted to ask, how important is it to you that your wife is happy?
Well, I'd say that's the number one thing is that she's happy. That's, I feel like that's what my job is to make sure she's happy as far as marriage goes. And as far as being a couple and, having intimacy and enjoying each other. And, that's what I want to do. I mean, that's what I've wanted to do ever since we got married. I wanted to make sure that she was happy and that she was enjoying life and that we were, doing it together. So that's, and there were times, like in the bad old days, it's like, there's nothing I can do to make this woman happy because we're going to argue about stuff and she's not going to be satisfied. And it's like, there's nothing I can do. And that's very frustrating when I was in that situation, because it's like, well, all the things I've been trying to do, I'm not being appreciated, and it's not making her happy. So, it was just kind of like we butted heads on that, and we've kind of laughed about it since, because all I was really trying to do was make you happy. Why are you upset? And then it's come back full circle. So.
Wow. So it sounds like, you weren't able to be successful with this. It feels like job number one as a husband.
Yeah, right.
And it sounds like you feel like you can be successful now.
Yeah, I think in general, I've been doing a pretty good job lately.
I love that. I mean, that feels good, right? Like you can succeed where you didn't feel like you could before.
Yeah, I mean, because she expresses her desires. And again, this is what, we've talked about. And then I decide how to make it happen. And sometimes she has to wait. Sometimes it falls together in place. Sometimes it's sooner than she expected. Sometimes it's eventually, but I don't feel pressured to make anything happen. I don't feel like it's more work. I feel like it's actually less work, and it's more enjoyable because, if I have to say, well, we got to wait on this, but we can do this, then she's still happy because it's still one of her desires. So, and I know for me, I'm kind of dense sometimes. I have to be told what it is you want because, we've joked, I can't read your mind and I don't know what you're thinking. And there's, just like when Christmas comes, I want a list because the things that make me happy do not make you happy. And I want to get the things that make you happy. So give me a list. And it works really well. So that's part of the fun.
Mm-hmm. I love this. I love how you're describing this interaction. Really the firsthand account of it. These are, and you're saying so many things that we talk about a lot on the campus, but I'm saying like, hey, I noticed this happens with my husband, and you're really echoing so many things that I've heard from my husband as well. So it's very validating to everything that we talk about here. Was there anything else you noticed about your wife? Any differences? You've mentioned quite a few things already, so I'm just excited to hear everything you have to say about it. But was there anything else that you noticed had changed?
Well, one of the things when she started really focusing on self-care, which is another thing that is a big part of the process, she changed a lot. And I think um, it was much easier to just add a little bit more and get a lot out of it, I guess is. So I didn't have to do all the work anymore to make her happy. She was actually taking care of herself and doing things, just, going to lunch with a friend, or talking to her sister, or doing just doing things that made her happy without me having to do a lot of work. And then when we did come together, it was just like, the effort that I put in was multiplied, I felt like. So it's kind of interesting that, I never really thought much about self-care. But it is one of the areas that it's important for both of us. And when we take care of, ourselves first, then we're so much more to the other person, and it's not just her side, it's me too. I need to make sure that, I'm not depleted in any area, and she does the same. And then when we do, come together, we're ready for each other. We don't have to, drag each other down to make any progress, I guess, is kind of what we were thinking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
totally. Like if since she was out making herself happy, I like the way you say it. My efforts were multiplied. Like there wasn't so much heavy lifting. A little bit would go a long way because she was already happy to begin with. You could just pile
and I
on.
mean, we both tend to be on the workaholic side, I guess. We both tend to focus, and that can be depleting, and we needed to make sure that we were doing the things that, sure, get a lot of stuff done, but also make sure that you're taking care of yourself, and getting enough rest, and getting enough, the right kind of food, and taking care of yourself. I mean, that's, those are the things that you can kind of put on hold when you're in the middle of, raising kids and just doing life. And if you put it on hold for a long time, then it just, you burn out, and it's not good.
So it sounds like maybe you've changed a little bit since your wife started this as well. Do I have that right? Or
well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I've been doing things more, when I see her doing something that's self-care, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I could probably do something like that, and, we're watching our diet more, and we're doing things together. And, I got my Fitbit, so I'm conscious of how much I've walked and stuff like that. And I think it's just more of a consciousness kind of thing. It's not like we weren't doing those things. It's just we're more conscious of it now, and we're, more focused. So we're focusing on that as well. So yeah, I think I've been able to take advantage of, the example that she's been setting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it sounds like I think of it as like an energy surplus. We ended up with an energy surplus here when we stopped having needless emotional turmoil about our marriage. And we were able to use that energy for other things. And it sounds like a similar experience at your house happened. Yeah. What else? How else has the culture of your house changed?
Well, we've had a lot of transition right now because my adult daughters have just moved out, and they went and bought a house, and there's been a lot of changes. We've got a new puppy, so we're enjoying that. And just there's been a lot of change, but in the past, it probably would have been frantic. And instead, it's been, well, this is enjoyable. We can deal with this. So transitions go smoother, I guess, there's stuff going on around us, but we're, like our own little island, and we can deal with whatever comes along. And we've been able to maintain our happiness through it and enjoy each other. And it's like, well, what's going on today? Well, we got to deal with this, but oh well, everybody has to deal with stuff, but we get to come back together and enjoy each other. So it's just been fun. Yeah.
I love hearing about how fun it is at your house, and especially so you're brand new empty nesters. I think that's just within the last month or something, right? Is this
Matter of weeks? Yeah.
weeks?
So
Weeks.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And sometimes that can be a period of uh I would say distress. I hear about it being kind of distressing in some marriages, because the kids were a buffer sometimes, between to mitigate that tension that was coming up. And it doesn't sound like that's the experience you're having. There's not tension.
yeah. I mean, we miss them, but it's like, hey, I got the whole house to myself. I've got,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah.
I says I'm an introvert, so that works great. And
Yeah.
then, no, I'm kidding. um,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
the biggest thing it has really, if we didn't, have a new puppy, it would be way too quiet around here. That's the biggest change. But we've been enjoying the new puppy and just having fun with that, and we like each other, and it's easy. There's a lot of freedom now because we don't have to um, schedule around other people. We're like, okay, well, let's do whatever we want, and there's a lot of freedom in that.
That's
So,
awesome. Yeah,
and
I
we do
love
miss
it.
our kids, but yeah, that's
Oh,
still,
sure. Of
yeah.
course. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I think it's nice if you're able to turn to each other in that time, right? And
yeah.
there's comfort and fun and pleasure in that relationship too. And it sounds like you have really created that. So I love that. What do you think what's a tip you would give to a couple where maybe they are where you guys were, where there's just these certain topics, that are kind of critical to talk about, but they're not able to get through them without having a fight, or there's stonewalling going on, and they want to be where you are now, where there's still lots to do. There's still a puppy to train, and there's and
Yeah.
you still both have your work that you're interested in, but they want to be able to move forward and communicate and connect the way you and your wife are. What's your best tip for them?
Um, well, I wish I had something profound, but I mean, obviously, getting involved with Lord Doyle Connect was great for us. And uh, shameless plug, I know, but still.
Hey, I don't mind. I don't mind.
No,
I love.
and, I think, um, put the time in and, check out the things that are available. If you, have needs in that area, don't just keep stonewalling, just kind of put some effort in. I know we've both over the years, when we first got married, I said, hey, if things ever get to the point where you don't like it, let me know and we'll change. And that was one of the things that we kind of based our marriage on. That's why we've moved several times and did different things. And, we've just gotten to points in our life where we needed to change, and we weren't afraid to do it. We just, because it was something that was important. So don't be afraid to change. If things aren't working, don't keep doing the same thing. Get the help you need, find something different, and just keep loving each other, I guess, is the biggest thing. I know that I've always wanted to have a good marriage, and I've always thought that marriage was worth fighting for. And that we've had our issues over the time, but it's the greatest thing. It is so much. It's just incredible when you have a good marriage. We had a good marriage for years, and now we've got a great marriage, and it's like it just keeps getting better and better. So it is available, I guess. I would say just don't lose hope, because there is, good information like the Lord Doyle Connect information that will help you change. And, it is worth the time. It's worth the effort. And, don't give up.
Oh, I love that. I, you're saying it's really is all it's cracked up to be when you have a great marriage.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that, the worst thing in life is probably a bad marriage, and the best thing in life is a good marriage. So it's like the opposite side of the coin. So it's worth the effort, the cost, the effort, whatever it takes to really make it so that you can have that intimacy and just enjoy life. I mean, that's the biggest thing for us is we are just, having a great time and enjoying each other. And it's in every area. I mean, everything's good. So I'm happy.
It's inspiring, Brian. That's so
Yeah.
inspiring. I love hearing that. What about, I know your daughters are grown, but do you think it's had any impact on them that you guys have gone from having a good marriage to having a great marriage?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, they saw it all. They lived through it with us, and they know when we were, I guess you'd call it fighting. They knew when we were not in intimate relationship, and then they know when we were in intimate relationship, and then they know the difference. And I think they will carry that into their marriages and into their future. And it's something that we've been a good example to them overall. You can disagree and have fights and still love each other, and then you can grow from it and get better and better. So I think that is something that they've seen us work through things. They've seen us, when we were poor. They've seen us when we've had money. They've seen us when we were at odds with each other, and they've just lived life with us. So I think it's set them up for success in their lives too. They've got to burn their own toast, I guess is what most people say. But it's still, I think it has been a good example for them overall.
Oh, yeah. I think it must feel really good to be able to be that example for them instead of, there's an expression, I didn't say it, someone else did. I can't think of who, but if you can't be a good example, you'll just have to be a horrible warning. And you, you guys are the good example and not
Yeah.
the horrible warning,
Yeah.
which is an accomplishment, I think. It's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the reasons why we want to share more, is because we are unusual, unfortunately, and we don't want to be. We want other people to have this too. So we've been focusing on that, and I know Anne has been doing some really good work with coaching and enjoying that. I mean, she just loves being able to help people. And yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Well, it's kind of like she found, what she was supposed to be doing. I mean, she's kind of been preparing for this for her whole life, and now she's finally found it, and it makes her happy. It's work. I mean, you know how much work it is, but it's also very rewarding and very fulfilling, and you um, it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love hearing that because it's true. There's a lot to do to end world divorce. It's we joke around a lot that we have a lot of job security around here because you see so many marriages falling apart. And it's moving to hear that this is something she's been preparing. Your wife has been preparing for this for her whole life.
Yeah.
Now she's finally able to live in that purpose, and it feels meaningful and magical. And there's lots of fringe benefits at home, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And that's just dreamy. I mean, that is, I think it's kind of something we'd all like to have, is that purposeful work combined with the happy home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys did it. You guys did it. And congratulations, Brian, because I do think it is an unfortunately it is an extraordinary accomplishment
Yeah, I wish it
to
weren't so unusual, but it's like, wow, we've done this and we're still happy. I mean, we've been married almost 35 years and we still like each other. And that's unfortunately unusual. So, like you said, we have a lot of work, Anne does, and we're both doing whatever we can, wherever we can, and just being an example and, hoping other people kind of catch it from that. And, yeah.
well, yeah, this is a huge contribution towards that because I think it is the personal storytelling that I think kind of reaches into people's lives and makes them feel like they're less alone when they're struggling. And I just also want to give a shout out to your wife right now for inviting you onto the podcast for us to share. I mean, she's not on your paper today, right? She can't control
No,
what
she
you're
did.
saying. It's a little risky. It's more than a little risky, right?
I
And
don't think she's even within earshot. So yeah, she's
no, but she
she'll
might
have
hear
to
the
watch the
recording
tape later.
later.
Yeah, she'll
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
hear the recording.
She'll
Yeah.
probably hear it later, right? And
Yeah.
so, but anyway, so it's a wonderful contribution from both of you that we got to hear your side of the story today and just really get some insights about what it's like to be the husband. And I guess I just want to ask, like, how has it affected how attracted you are to your wife, if at all?
Well, I've always been attracted to her, but not. Um, I mean, obviously, when you're under stress and you're not, enjoying each other, it's harder to be attracted to somebody. It's more work, and I don't feel like it's any work at all anymore now. It's just like, we we are really enjoying each other. No more details, but yeah.
All right,
We
all right.
well, no, I mean, our sex life is still great. We are it's just in love, and it's fun. I find her extremely attractive, and I think she still likes me, so it works out good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's a vital piece of what you're sharing, that it's no effort to be attracted. Now, it sounds like you're just crazy about her naturally.
Yeah.
And when things were stressful, it did feel like it was some effort. And so that's like an unnecessary drain on the energy in
Yeah.
the
I think
relationship.
that's what it is. It's draining instead of, empowering. Instead of building you up, it's like it makes it hard. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And you touched a little bit about feeling more successful as like your wife's hero, I guess I would say. But let me just ask about that. Like, do you feel like you're her hero now?
In a sense, I guess. I mean, I feel like, we have a lot of projects going. My hobby is building stuff. So, if I'm doing something that I know she wants, I'm excited about it. And it's just like, I have a great day working on stuff. And that's pretty much where we've been lately. So in the past, I'd get like, I'd do something and then she'd say, well, can you do this? And I didn't feel like it was appreciated. And it was just like, it just like takes the wind right out of your sails. And it makes it really hard to get motivated. But lately, it's been more, we make decisions together, we decide what we want, and then I do it, and she loves it. So it works out good. Problem solved, kind of like getting the Christmas list. It's like, okay, I can do this. I can be
Fantastic.
successful. So it's kind of like she's been a lot better at expressing her desires and allowing me to fulfill them. And that works great for me because, like I said, I can't read her mind and I don't know what it is until she tells me. So, but then when she does, it works well.
And you sound like you feel inspired to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably the word for it, is like, well, what am I going to do? Oh, I can do this because I know it'll make her happy. And it's, as you put it, I can be her hero. And I mean, deep down, that's kind of what we want. I mean, that's what makes life fun, is when, you know, somebody's, you know, counting on you to be their hero. And it sounds kind of corny, but it's real. There is a real desire there to be that person for your wife. And, you know, I think it gets, you know, kind of sucked out of a lot of people's dream by, you know, just because life happens. But, you know, when you're able to get back to that, I think it's just, you know, we've been having a great time. It's been fun. Yes, there's been a lot of change and a lot of stress and a lot of all this other stuff going on, but, you know, we're solid, we're together and moving forward on the things we want to do, and enjoying it. So I think, you know, yeah, we're winning.
Right. I think, yeah, you're winning. You are
Yeah.
winning. It's worth celebrating. It's worth
Yeah.
celebrating that this is where you've come to. And it's worth taking notes to for anyone who wants what you have, which I think is everyone. How do we get it? And you've just given us so many insights about that. So this has been wonderful, Brian. Thank you so much for sharing so personally and vulnerably, and letting us
fun.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I really appreciate, you know, all that you've done and feeding into Anne's life and encouraging her and helping her to be her best. I know that, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into the work that you're doing. And, you know, I think I would highly recommend Laura Doyle Connect to anybody that is interested in it for their wife, or for, you know, just, you know, it's good. I mean, we went from an okay marriage to a great marriage because of, you know, the work she put in and the work that you put into the program. So it's worth it.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And kudos to Coach Ann for all the work she's done, which we're hearing about through you too. So yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brian.
You're welcome. And thank you very much too.
If you'd like to be my guest on the Empowered Wife podcast and share about how you fixed a struggling relationship using the 6 intimacy skills, I would love to interview you. Just go to lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest to let me know that you are willing to make a big contribution to ending world divorce by telling your relationship story. I look forward to meeting you. That's lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, I'll share about the step-by-step instructions on fixing your marriage. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that Amazon hasn't been here for a few days. I hope they're okay.